I have to tell you that there are some, things going on in the mill in Lower Semine that don't seem to have much to do with milling flour.
It's not the first I've heard of it. People come in here all the time saying that mill is suspicious. Nobody's been able to give me any details, though. Can you elaborate?
Well, where can I start?
Look, if you're caught up in anything shady, you don't have to worry. If you bring me valuable reports, I can guarantee you impunity. I protect my people, so you can speak freely.
Something's definitely going on at the mill. Kreyzl tasked me with carrying sacks. I thought they were full of flour, but then metal balls started spilling out. He wouldn't tell me what was going on. Instead, he offered me another job. That is, just a job. He initiated me into the art of wealth redistribution. His term for thievery. In short, before I knew it, I became an apprentice thief with all that entails. But it didn't sit right with me, which is why I'm here.
Good for you, lad. All we've had so far is vague accusations, no direct evidence. Kreyzl and his hired hands are damned crafty. It's hard to figure out what his supposedly scholarly talk is all about. Now, I'm thinking. Supposing you became our eyes and ears at Kreyzl's place.
You mean be your informant?
Well, let's call it a trade. Valuable first-hand reports in exchange for honest, officially approved groschen.
That sounds interesting. Where should I start?
Just carry on doing what you're doing for Kreyzl, as if nothing happened. Gain his trust. It can be dubious and dangerous. It's hard to tell what he has in store for you. You mustn't let on to him that you're working for us. And when we have enough evidence, we'll hit Lower Semine in full force. We'll lock the whole lot up.
All right. I'll be happy to help. As soon as I get Kreyzl and his band in one place, I'll tell you immediately. What's new in the county, Master Bailiff?
I was just visited by one of the local peasants. He said he found more fresh graves behind his field, just below the village, along the road to Nabokov.
What do you mean, more? You sound like this isn't the first time.
That we found someone buried here? Don't even ask. I've been digging up bodies ever since that bandit gang started running rampant. Most of them are von Burgo's men, and that's about it.
That sounds interesting. Thank you. Bertha, instead of devils, I need your help now with Nikvard. The scribe told me you might know something about him.
Well, I'm waiting for Lord Libac to stop by. I brewed him another phial of medicine, but I don't even know if the last one helped. I told him to stop by for another one soon. I reckon he must be feeling better.
Did he say where he was headed?
I can't say. I promised Lord Libac his secret is safe with me, as well as his phial of medicine.
Oh, come now. Nikvard misplaced an important book somewhere. A sort of alchemist cookbook. I need to find it.
I remember the recipes by heart. And Lord Libac's secret is certainly worth more than any book.
Listen, Bertha. I truly respect your honesty. I'm in the service of a nobleman myself, and I know what's expected of us in cases like these, whether it's Nikvard's illness or political machinations over the fate of our kingdom. Both carry equal weight when spoken about behind closed doors, I'd say. I stand by my principles in matters like that.
Lord Libac's troubles can hardly compare to what you're talking about. It's really quite a trifle in comparison.
So you'll tell me then?
Well, it's a common potion for a bellyache. Just better tasting. It helps your meals go down easier and come out slower the other end. In that regard, Lord Libac had, well, how to say it? Everything came out much too quickly.
Nikvard didn't have time to run down the stairs, eh?
It was in the privy down below the crone, by the training ground below the guardhouse. I helped him clean his hose and made him the medicine, and I promised that I wouldn't say anything. Lord Libac is quite particular about the impression he makes on the young maids, you know. He didn't want this little episode to put them off. That's why he didn't use the privy near the maids' quarters, though it's closer to his chamber, but to the arena instead, and only when there weren't any soldiers around. But this time, it caught up with him.
Is that all?
What else is there to say? That the entire time he looked as if he'd done the worst thing in the world. It happens to the best of us, and I told him as much then. I'm just surprised he never came back for another file. I must say, he did look as if the fate of the entire castle was suddenly on his shoulders.
I don't know if this is going to do me any good.
Well, you could have found a worse clue.
Thanks anyway.
My God, you're all covered in blood.
I'm looking for Nikvard. The scribe told me you might know something about him.
Hey, Nick. I mean, Lord Libac. I almost forgot about him. I suppose his task wasn't so pressing, hmm?
What do you mean, forgot?
Nick Libac, that is, entrusted me with a big task quite a while back. He's a castle lord. Obviously, I had to obey him. But then I heard what another castle lord was planning, von Berghoff, and I had to obey him even more. He says there's a war on. So here I am, ready to go off to battle.
I need to know more about what Nikvard asked you to do.
No. There are new rules now. You have to prove you're not a spy.
What are you blathering about?
Von Berghoff said there's a war on, right now. I told him, watch out for spies, Sir Otto. But fear not, I know how to sniff them out. You're a spy yourself, ain't you?
I'm not.
Ha! That's exactly what a spy would say. That's why you have to be vetted, to see if you're really on our side. The side that Nikvard's on, just so you know. We're all friends here. You can join us.
I'd like to.
Hold your horses. First a test.
Tell me what you want from me, then.
A sword.
Sword? What sword?
A long and very good one to help me deal with other spies. If you bring it to me, I'll know you're not an enemy spy who should fear me. Forge one, buy one, or even steal one for me. Maybe from one of the guards at the training ground or down by the gate. During the day, they're not in the towers anyway.
Steal a sword? That sounds like something a spy would do.
Not a spy who wants to help von Berghoff's most loyal servant. By servant, I mean me. See, once I get a sword, I'll fill you in on Nikvard's task.
Listen, Hirsch.
Don't try any word games on me. Persuasion, threats, I know about them spy tricks. Deeds talk louder than words. For example, like bringing me a sword.
I'll think of a way to convince you. About Nikvard.
Got that sword yet, spy?
You wanted a sword? So look at what I got for you.
That's perfect. Lovely. I don't think you're a spy. Can't say for sure, but you seem all right.
What about Nikvard, then?
Nikvard asked me to do something for him. He must have admired my devotion to Lord von Berghoff. Either way, Nick looked troubled and not very healthy. He wanted me to fetch him something he lost outside the castle. And I told him I would. At least I could check to see if anyone was sneaking around about the castle. But then Nikvard clutched his belly and ran off. so I never found out what he wanted, or from where.
That's all.
Aye. If you run into Nikvard, ask him if he still needs it or whether he found it himself. I'll be going into war soon, so I don't have time for these things, see?
I'll tell him.
Has to be me standing over the body. What a fucking day.
You must be Nikvard, eh?
God grant you
All right.
health. Good doggy. Good boy. It has to be me standing over the body.
How many more times am I gonna have to poke around in corpses and shit for that damn Kreyzl? I have the book for you.
Well, I must admit, I haven't had an apprentice this handy in a long time. Zinnik has nothing on you.
I didn't even look inside.
You had a treasure like this in your hands, and you weren't even curious to have a peek? Well, I suppose it's not for everyone. I'll have a look for myself. This really is something. But why is it all covered in shit, for fuck's sake?
But the essence of life from the skies didn't bother you, and now you're squeamish.
Refining saltpeter. Boil wine and alum. Grind. Ah, of course, it makes sense. I'll study the rest on the way. Well, the last chapter of our story of knowledge awaits us. The grand finale.
So what now? Do you have another job for me?
Charcoal. Sulfur from Hermes Trismegistos. Saltpeter from the carcass pit. As long as Black Bertolt didn't make any mistakes in his calculations, we have everything.
What Bertold? Oh, God damn it, Kreyzl, what's going on here? I'm tired of flying back and forth like a rag on a stick. I won't be led around by the nose. Will you finally tell me what's going on?
Believe it or not, all this secrecy had its reasons. But now I don't have to hide anything from you. It's time. We'll meet with the others in the lair, and there you'll learn the whole truth. You go ahead. I'm going to get a few things ready here.
All right, then. I hope you keep your word this time.
Leave me, or is it Henry again? Stop for a while, my good man. You silly doggy.
Greetings, my friend.
I have the book for you.
Well, I must admit, I haven't had an apprentice this handy in a long time. Zinnik has nothing on you.
I had a peek inside. The pictures are nice, but what do you want to learn from them?
You'll find out soon enough. Show me that miraculous thing. This really is something. But why is it all covered in shit, for fuck's sake?
Let's just say the scribe didn't have it. It actually wasn't even in the castle. Under it, really. It's time for the rat house to make a move on Kreyzl.
Do we have enough evidence to lock that rabble up? Tell me.
You might want to sit down for this, Thrush. Kreyzl has something that would allow him to raise the whole of Trotsky to the ground if he wanted to.
My God, how? Tell me.
Listen,
Goddamn Kreyzl.
what now?
It's time to put an end to it. I'll take a few men, and we'll head to that lair of theirs. Show us the way. Is there anyone missing here?
No. This is the whole gang.
Master Bailiff, what are you doing out here? In the forest? Such a rare honor.
The game is up, Kreyzl. In the name of the king, you'll tell me every last detail of what's going on here.
Of course. My conscience is clear. It's just that my apprentice here must have misunderstood the goal of our efforts. I assume that's why he brought you here.
Don't try to worm your way out of it. Henry here has cause to suspect something underhand is going on here.
You don't say. What sort of underhand things do you mean?
You sent me to steal the document from the rat house.
Don't associate me with thievery. You know I hate that word. The document was mine, and you decided on your own how to obtain it.
Horseshit. You've got all the thievery in the county under your thumb. Bonnie and Zinnek robbed a lot of poor farmers.
What my hands do behind my back is their own business. You can't prove any of it, Thrush.
I can't prove the thievery, Kreyzl. You're right about that. But I'll find plenty of evidence against you right here. The manufacture of black powder is a crime. I'm giving you one last chance to confess and avoid a visit to the torture chamber.
A crime? How could it be a crime? Is it a crime to walk down a path no one has walked before? To pick a flower no one has ever picked? Or to make love to a girl no one has ever made love to?
Save the poetry for someone who cares, Miller. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
But you don't know what I'm talking about. You see the shadows on the wall, but you miss the flame casting them. You don't understand the world hidden behind the world of matter. You'll never know what it means to harness and control that matter. What it means to wield the power of fire.
And you don't know when to stop babbling about your delusions, because you just unwittingly confessed.
What the hell is going on here?
You don't know? I thought you'd be more insightful, after all we've been through together.
You never were particularly outgoing.
And I see I wasn't wrong about you. You're just an ordinary fool. You fail to understand that behind my actions is nothing but a pure desire for true knowledge. To hell with a golem, the Kabbalah, shadows and light. This is proof that knowledge is a weapon. This is real power. If it gets into the right hands, stone shall not be left upon stone. It'll tear down your whole old world, along with the church and all that shit around it. Then God's justice will finally come among men.
I'd truly like to see that.
Sero sapiunt frigus.
Don't hide behind Latin. Your university lectures won't save you. You underestimated us. Especially our scribe. He learned all about black powder and the danger it poses. I didn't catch you for thievery, but I'll have you for aiding and abetting outlaws. You'll hang. All of you!
I have nothing to do with outlaws. I swear. Do you think I'd share such a secret with anyone?
Then what did you want to do with black powder?
To try it out, to test its power.
And how would you do that? Blow up the rat house?
No. Why would you think that?
You spoke of the end of the old world. Where else would you start but in Droskovitz?
You're more conceited than I thought. You think everything revolves around you and your little rat house? Henry, for Christ's sake, say something. You know me. You must understand.
He's a criminal. He deserves to hang.
You're on the right side.
There is only one wisdom and truth that is hidden in the very essence of things. You can't stop progress. There will be others after me. The discovery of black powder will eventually reach the people and serve the purpose for which God intended it. From the spark will come an explosion of knowledge, and then nothing will stop the coming of the new kingdom of God.
You might be right, but it'd be wiser not to start such experiments in these dark times. What would happen if Sigismund got his hands on this secret of yours? Or someone even worse than him?
You don't understand anything.
That's enough. Miller Kreyzl, for rebellion against the king and the order of the world in a time of war, I sentence you and your accomplices to death by hanging. The sentence shall be carried out immediately and on the spot, as is the custom when dealing with rebels like you. Men, hang them from the rafters in this hole of theirs. Let them swing there as carrion for the crows and a warning to others.
What'll happen now?
Our last supper, with only one but very filling course, awaits us.
Kreyzl, please. For once, just once, tell me what's actually going on.
And rob myself of enjoying your blissful ignorance? Not a chance. Tell me yourself, what do you think is going to happen?
Like always. You'll send me off somewhere to look for something, and you'll have a fancy speech to go with it.
He knows you now as well as we do, Miller.
I do tend to do that, true enough. But no, today things will be different. Bonnie will start today. At least I'll finally see if she understood my teachings. Bonnie?
First of all, I'd like to thank you on behalf of the whole gang for all the work you've done. We could never have finished the job without you. We found 2 new partners, you and Monarch here. It's good to have someone to rely on. So, it's time we started being honest with you, so you can finally learn the whole truth.
Not yet. Let's pull up that uppity bastard's leg a bit longer. That's the fun part.
One more word, Zinek, and you'll get one on the nose.
Calm down, friend. I'm just kidding. Tell him then, Bonnie.
This whole time, you've been collecting ingredients and clues for us. But, so you wouldn't go nosing around, we always told you it was for something different than it actually was.
The miller here calls it tackets.
Tactics, you idiot. And everything worked out according to plan. So today we're finally close to our great success. With the help of Hermes Trismegistos and his successors, we'll finally complete the dream of all alchemists. Our Magnum Opus.
Exactly, Bonnie.
Magnum Opus. A great work of alchemy. You're trying to make the Philosopher's Stone.
I see you've learned something after all. But no, the Philosopher's Stone isn't our goal.
Let's see then, Henry. What is it you think we're making here?
Some kind of weapon?
Well, Henry's not too far from the truth after all, don't you think? Actually, he's pretty spot on. Although weapons were our last order of business. Let's start at the beginning. My father was a miller as well, but I was never much interested in the trade. Even as a young boy, I loved running around Lower Samine and investigating everything living and dead. And I had a lot of questions about everything. Then my mother, God rest her soul, decided it'd be best for me to go to study in Prague. As soon as I grew up and gained a bit of sense, I packed my bags and left.
So you went to a university in Prague? The son of a miller?
Why not? My father worked his arse off, and he had the coin for it, miller or not. I met a lot of remarkable people at the university, and my thirst for knowledge kept growing. But in the end, it only took a year of all that pretentious, scholarly blathering and hypocritical nonsense for me to realize I wouldn't learn anything proper there. Most of the students and masters are just a bunch of dogmatic fools. They have their own truth, and those who want to know more or ask the wrong questions fall into disfavor, as was my case.
So they kicked you out?
I didn't give them the pleasure. I left myself. The most important science is not subject to any religious dogma. And, of course, it's not taught at any university. The art of combination and dissolution, the key to understanding the very nature of the world. There's only one queen of science, alchemy. I returned to the mill in Lower Samine and started a new life.
New life? What do you mean?
I returned to the miller's trade. My father was old, and my mother had passed away. From then on, alchemy became my true passion. I brought a few important books from Prague. I started with the most difficult thing. I tried to create gold.
That was pretty daring of you.
As you might expect, it didn't work. But after a few tries, I managed to create something entirely different. Once I tried mixing sulfur, charcoal, and saltpeter. I had a candle burning next to me. A gust of wind scattered the mixture, and all of a sudden, bang! I almost shit myself, I tell you. But then I realized I'd unwittingly created a miracle. Explosive black powder.
So I was right. You're making weapons.
No, it's about much more than that. We're all in on it now.
I couldn't continue my experiments on my own, but Bonnie and Zinnig did a few little jobs for me.
So he initiated us.
But we just still didn't know how to do it right and not blow ourselves up in the process.
And we used up a huge amount of saltpeter and sulfur.
By the way, the manuscript from that Hermes Trismegistos was our shopping list and price list for material from Kuttenberg.
Only we didn't know correct proportions. I looked up a few of my former fellow students and brought it up with them. And we found out that before us, some monk had already made the discovery.
Some fella called Black Bertold. And that he even started writing a book called
Feuerwerkbuch.
We couldn't believe our luck when we found out there's a copy of it right here at Trotsky.
And you know the rest.
It's a discovery that will change history. In the right hands, it can make miracles happen. All it takes is a spark, and a storm of fire will sweep away the old world order. It will wipe out stupidity and ignorance, once and for all.
And what will happen now?
As I said, we're about to have our last supper on our journey to satisfy our hunger for knowledge. A feast of smoke and fire. Black Bertold never finished his book, because he never had enough ingredients for his last great experiment. But now, thanks to you, we do. We can finally finish Bertold's work and finish his book. We'll see with our own eyes what a barrel of black powder can do. I hope you're as excited as I am.
Before we get started, there's something I want to know. This book, Feuerwerkbuch, what's written in it?
Everything you'd want to know about black powder. How to mix it in the proper ratio, how to store it, how to light it properly, and especially how to use it in warfare, because that's the most important part, after all.
What is it you're going to do with this powder?
During wartime, like it is now, a flammable and explosive mixture like this has more uses than you can imagine. If we had a few big barrels of the stuff, we could demolish Trotsky if we wanted to. And maybe we will.
All of us here are truly passionate about the idea of a new world. And now it's within our grasp.
Do you really need that much saltpeter?
We do. Saltpeter makes up almost 3/4 of the mixture. Not even all the cows in the region could produce enough for us once we really get started with manufacturing.
What is it you studied at the university?
I was supposed to become a preacher.
That fits you. Maybe you'd even be a good preacher.
Maybe I would. Maybe I wouldn't.
God has a path prepared for each of us. And each of us here decided not to follow it.
I was supposed to be a dyer, but I was too lazy to work 6 days a week and soak my hands in lye.
I was supposed to become a nun, but I didn't want to give up the booze and fellas.
And I've already told you everything. The world is what you make it.
How did a scholar and an alchemist become a thief?
Prague is a big city, and a poor student has no chance of getting a decent place to sleep or even something to eat. Learning to shop with 5 fingers was the first requirement for survival. We're all masters of our own destiny.
I've heard enough. Now I want to see that with my own eyes.
Let's do it then. Bonnie, is everything ready?
Indeed, it is. We can get started. Long live the beautiful new world.
Looks like it ain't working.
I'd say it works just fine.
This will change history.
What? I can't hear a thing. But I'd say it works just fine.
You really led me on about the gunpowder magazine, didn't you? A golem made of dough, souls inside saltpeter, the secrets of light and shadow. That was all just empty talk, wasn't it?
Not exactly. It's all based on the real philosophy of the Jewish Kabbalah. I studied the writings of Bonaventura and Dietrich von Freiberg, but it was never in my interest to put their theories into practice. But they work brilliantly as a cover-up, don't you think?
I really thought you'd have a golem made from dough walking around the mill, or that I could become invisible.
Ah, but black powder is no less a miraculous creation.
So for the last time, Kreyzl, what now?
I'll do what I promised, and what will most likely be my fate. I'm going to gather together all the knowledge I've acquired and finish Black Berthold's book. I'll finish his opus.
Uh-huh. And what about me?
That's up to you, Henry. You're a free man. Lure Samin has no hold over you, and never did. You know, the inevitability of God's plan takes no interest in people like you and me. We'll always be little people, beneath it all.
That sounds somehow hopeful in a peculiar way, I'd say. Now I'm even happier about the great thing we've accomplished here.
The ideal conclusion, I'd say. Maybe it's time to carry sacks at a different mill. But if you're still interested in learning a bit more, drawing from the well of alchemical knowledge...
I know where to find you.
Indeed.
Black powder? I'd never have expected that from Kreyzl.
Imagine, that monarch of ours is half deaf.
That dog of yours? What does that have to do with the gunpowder magazine?
Just that I was wondering that the explosions didn't bother him at all. At least he won't suffer here. And now I'm not surprised he was so unhappy with that bastard Vesaric. Hey, how did you know what we were actually doing?
I didn't exactly.
But you said weapons. How did you find out? Did we let it slip somehow?
It was clear to me the moment I saw that book. I figured the illustrations were about either painting the walls with something to make them invisible, or demolishing them with some kind of flames.
Whew! That means it's all on Kreyzl, and I played my role properly. Anyway, you did a damn fine job. You deserve a nickname from me, like I promised. We're going to call you Sourdough.
Sourdough?
Well, when you came here, you were kind of unrefined, grey, nothing much. But as you gained experience, you rose and rose until you've risen into a companion we need not be ashamed of. Take care then, Sourdough. And come back and visit sometime.